Okay guys, this is Miss Soldani, and this video is for the 10th graders to detail what she'll be doing with the story map. This is just a series of bubbles, just bubbles all over the place, and they're not even pretty bubbles, because I don't care. If this model works better for you, exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, or denouement, then do that. I'm not going to count off or count extra for however way you choose to organize it, as long as you are organizing yourself or you're doing something to prepare yourself for writing your drafts. So I start off with my characters, my archetype, the archetypes I'll be working with, and my setting, so where it's going to take place. I also like to identify the genre I'm working with. So my story is going to be in high fantasy, so it's going to take place in a world that does not exist within our world, and will involve some kind of magical beings and transformations and blah blah blah. This story has actually been batting around my head since I was 17, listening to music in my car and creating, sequences and stories in my mind to the tune of whatever song was playing. So, like I said, this is something that's been going on in my head, so it's going to be a little bit more developed than what you guys will be doing, and it's going to be based on some pretty embarrassing stuff, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to laugh at me. So I'll start out with my mentor text, so where I'm pulling all of this from. I was listening to a lot of Rob Zombie and Static X and Fear Factory and Power Man 5000, and so a lot of my stories will be pulling themes from that or pulling ideas from that, and they're all like, warriors and fighting and gruesome stuff. So the characters in this story are actually based on a little bit of what I was thinking about while listening to Super Beast by Rob Zombie, but there are also other elements in there. Also, this was when I was starting to get into Japanese anime. I hadn't really started reading manga yet, but it was getting interesting. So I was envisioning this as either an anime or as a comic book. Okay, so it's the characters I'm working with. There's a fox who's king of his forest. He's the forest king. A pretty maiden, because there's always a pretty maiden. And a prince who happens to be a berserker. This is my main characters. Ooh, there went my southern accent. The main characters are twin brothers, and this is their favorite story to hear. So this is something their grandmother tells them like every night. Alright, so the archetypes I'm working with, I'll be using a trickster character. It's actually based a little bit on Kitsune, which is a Japanese fox demon. And then the berserker, if you'll remember that from social studies, that's the Viking warrior who would put on bear skins during battle and would, try to create like a berserker rage when they fight. The fairy or folk tale, and there's a little bit of friend zoning in there. And then the setting is a small village and a kingdom, and then you have Fox's village. I'm going to separate that out with a semicolon so you guys know that they're separate things. Okay, so I got some of the basic things in there, and I left this open because more stuff will be coming. I may have other ideas I want to get down here. Alright, so down here I just drew a series of bubbles, and these are my events. So, to start out, we have this pretty girl, so the maiden, and on one of our romps in the forest she meets Fox. So through growing up, she's very young, she's probably like 8. As I grow up, she becomes even prettier, and Fox falls in love. But she's like, oh no, friend zone. She doesn't reciprocate his feelings. She doesn't feel the same way about him. And he just keeps it to himself. But then when she's like 16, less, we'll make her 18 so it's less creepy. The prince, who happens to be an accomplished berserker, comes riding into town on his shiny horse. That's a shield. That's how he said. And he meets her. And it's instant. Oh. He falls for her, she falls for him. Now normally, because she's a peasant and he's a prince, their love can never be, but he tells his dad, I'm marrying her. And then, wedding bells. Those are wedding bells. Do not argue with me. See wedding bells. Alright, so they get married. And the fox is mad. In Japanese, like anime and images, the fox always has that kind of eye. So he always smiles with eyes closed. So their expression would never, will be different. Like they'll have, different emotions going on, but their eyes will always look like that because they always seem to be smiling. And so he, like after their wedding night and everything, the fox hatches this little plan. And he goes and finds the maiden, and he disguises himself as her now husband, and says, we're going to go away to my kingdom. My father gave me a new castle, we're going to go away to my kingdom. And she, believing that that's her husband, gets lured away to the forest, which she thinks is actually a castle. Castle. That's a castle. Disguised as trees. Don't argue with me. Okay. Now, here's another reason why I left all that space. I have more events to talk about, so I'm just going to come up and over. So up, and then another circle, and we're in the forest. So little did everyone know, she's pregnant. Because she got married, and married people have children. Belly. And because she's so split between her love for her actual husband and the illusion that the fox is playing on her. The one baby splits into two. All in her belly, all in her womb still. So instead of one child, she has two. And when they're born, so when the babies are born, okay, and they're wearing diapers. One is very much like the fox, and the other is very much like the prince, and he kind of carries the same traits as his father, who was an accomplished berserker. And the fox, being the selfish guy that he is, intends to raise both of them as his own. well, sometime in the future, she comes to her senses. She comes to her senses briefly, just enough for her to realize that she needs to get her sons out of there. She needs to get her sons away from the fox. And so she runs away. And leaves her sons with a village wise woman, or crone. And asks her to raise her children as her own. And all the while, you have the prince who is heartbroken and inconsolable over the loss of his wife. Heartbreak. And unknown to him, his own sons are walking the earth. And that is the state of the kingdom. And of course, at the end, it will end with the two boys listening to the old woman telling them this story. And end. So, like I said, this has kind of been going around my head, and so I've been developing the story for a while, and it's still kind of so it's something I'm going to have to work on if I'm really going to do something with it. You guys do not have to get this detailed. You may only have a few events, and that's okay. Another reason why I like this is that I can never figure out where the climax is going to be until I get it all laid out. And I think the climax is right here, where you know, she's left her, the maiden has left her sons with the old crone and asked her to watch, raise them as if they were her grandchildren, to keep them away from the fox. And you go back over to this prince who was abandoned, just days after his own wedding night, and is roaming the world because he misses the woman he loves, and of course has no idea he has sons. So this is my climax. This is the height of my action. And of course this would be my resolution. Okay. And exposition. Now the style I'll be telling this in is as if it were something you would be reading in a storybook meant for children. So the tone might be a little bit more kiddie-ish, although the rest of the work would be intended for a more adult audience. And that is the story map. This will be available to you guys while you work tomorrow, or it's today right now that you're watching this video, so today, greetings from the past. Alright, you guys know what I want, so do it, deliver, make it happen. And if you don't outline, draft, then do this. Got it? Good.